Hello and welcome to Bible Study with Alice, and today we're on day 1, Esther 1 of our daily Esther reading. We're reading from the ESV translation, but you're more than welcome to join us from a different translation. As you can see, we are on Esther 1. We are now into a new book of the Bible. Yesterday we had finished off in Ruth, so we're now in Esther. I have, as I said in previous videos, I have picked Esther because I wanted to do the women of the Bible, because they have their own significant stories to tell. And when we finished off in Proverbs 31, it was obviously talking about the Proverbs 31 woman, and I thought it'd be quite interesting to learn about the women in the Bible. There's only 2 books in the Bible that are based on women, so I thought, why not just do them next? So we've completed Ruth, which only did 4 days, and Esther, there's only 10 chapters in Esther, so we're going to be doing that for the next 10 days. I will add this video into its own individual playlist created for just Esther videos, and yes, that's why we are on Esther. There is a disclaimer as usual, and that is one, these videos are unedited, and also I'll probably stumble my wording. Just to make you aware, I do stumble my wording quite a bit. Let's get started. We've got a lot to get through today. So, it says at the top, for Introduction to Esther, see pages 1050 or 1050. So, we'll do that. In some Bibles, they don't have a introduction, so it's fine if yours don't. But 1050 is nowhere near 1054. Right. So Esther is just here. So Esther. The book of Esther never mentions God's name, yet God clearly orchestrated all of events. Esther, a Jew living in the exile of Persia, became the queen of the empire in about 480 BC before Christ. Haman, a Persian official, sought to eradicate even the Jewish minority, but God had prepared Esther for such a time as this, to save his covenant people. The book was written some decades later to document the origins of the Jewish occurrence, I think that's how you pronounce it, of Purim, which celebrates Israel's survival and God's faithfulness. The author is unknown, but some believe it could have been Esther's cousin Mordecai, who is a key person in the book. Throughout the book, we see God's sovereign hand perverting his people, perceiving his people even, showing that everything is under his control. So now we go back to Esther. And we get into the story. Just go a little higher, and then we can go in a bit more. So, the king's banquet. Now in the days of Ashashaya, that's a word I can't pronounce. I'm probably going to mispronounce these words. The Ahasuerus, who reigned from India to Ethiopia over 127 provinces. In those days, when King Ahasuerus, still pronounced that wrong, sat on his royal throne in Susa, the Kaitadal, in the 3rd year of his reign, he gave a feast for all his officials and servants. The army of Persia and Media, it looks like Media, probably pronounced as Media, and the nobles and governors of the province were before him, while he showed the riches of his royal glory, and the splendour and the pomp of his greatness. For many days, 180 days, and when these days were completed, the king gave for all the people present in Susa, the quiet town, both great and small, a feast lasting for 7 days in the court of the gardens of the king's palace. 6. There were white cotton curtains and the violet hangings fastened with cords of fine linen and purple 2 silver rods, and marble pillars, and also couches of gold, silver, and mosaic pavement of the proverbs. I don't know how to pronounce that word, I do apologise. Marble, mother of pearl, and precious stones. Drinks were served in golden vessels of different kinds, and the royal wine was lavished according to the bounty of the king, and drinking was according to his etiquette. There is no compulsion, for the king had given orders to all the staff of his palace to do as each man desired. Queen Vashti also gave a feast for the women of the palace that belonged to King Ahasuerus. Queen Vashti refusal. On the 7th day, when the heart of the king was merry with wine, he commanded Mehuman, Bezalel, Haboniah, Bigatha, and Agabatha, Zephyr, and Clactus, the 7 eunuchs. I don't even know how to pronounce these words, I do apologise. Why do they need to be so complicated? Who served in the presence of King Ahasuerus to bring Queen Vashti before the king with her royal crown, in order to show the peoples and the princes her beauty, for she was lovely to look at. But Queen Vashti refused to come at the king's command, delivered by the eunuchs. That's not the word. At this, the king became enraged, and his anger burned within him. Then the king said to the wise men who knew the time, for this was the king's procedure towards all who were versed in law and judgment, the men next to him being Koshishma, Saphatar, Admathra, Taradisha, Menina, and Menicran. Oh my gosh, really don't think those are how they're pronounced. The 7 princes of Persia and Media, who saw the king's face and sat first in the kingdom, according to the law, what is to be done to Queen Vashti, because she has not performed the command of King Ahasuerus, delivered by the eunuchs. Then Menacan said in the presence of the king and the officials, not only against the king has Queen Vashti done wrong, but also against all the officials and all the people who are in the province of King Ahasuerus. For the queen's behaviour will be made known to all women, causing them to look at their husbands with contempt, since they will say, King Ahasuerus commanded Queen Vashti to be brought before him, and she did not come. This very day the noble women of Persia and Media, who have heard the queen's behaviour, will say the same to all the king officials. There will be contempt and wrath in plenty. If it please the king, let a royal order go out from him, and let it be written among the lords of Persians and the Medes, so that it may not be replaced, that Vashti is never again to come before King Ahasuerus, and let the king give her royal position to another who is better than she. So when the decree made by the king is proclaimed throughout all his kingdom, for it is vast, all women will give honour to their husbands, high and low alike. This advice is pleased the king and the princes, and the king did as Medicum proposed. He sent letters to every province in its own script, to every people in its own language, that every man be master in his own household and speak according to the language of his people. Wow, that was very difficult, and I do apologise. That was very hard. There was a lot of words there that I could not pronounce very well, and I do struggle to pronounce certain words. So I am aware that they're not pronounced correctly, and I do apologise that they were mispronounced. Tomorrow we're going to be doing chapter 2. So now we're going to go through all the bits in pink. So don't worry, this video is going to be long, but we do need to kind of understand about the book of Esther. So, as we've established in the introduction, that Esther is written by an unknown author, but its likely author is Mordecai. Mordecai is obviously the cousin of Esther. Mordecai had access to historical documents and an interest in Jewish affairs. So Esther was born around 492 BC before Christ. Her original name was Hadashah. Esther was a Jewish woman who lived in Persia. Hadashah, meaning myrtle tree in Hebrew, and is a Hebrew name. So then Esther changed her name to hide her identity, and that was to conceal that she's Jewish. She didn't want people to know she was Jewish. The original audience for the book of Esther was the Jewish people, those living in exile within the Persian Empire. So obviously, before we get into the next slide, so quickly do an overview of this bit here. So obviously, as we established, that Esther was written by an unknown author, but it would have likely been her cousin Mordecai. Mordecai had access to historical documents and also had a very big interest in Jewish affairs. So he was very much into the Jewish history, anything Jewish related. Esther was born around 492 BC, and her original name was Hadashah. Esther was a Jewish woman who lived in Persia. Hadashah meaning myrtle tree, and that's obviously in Hebrew. So in the Hebrew meaning for Hadashah is myrtle tree, and obviously it's a Hebrew name. So then she changed her name to hide the fact that she was Jewish, and she didn't want anybody to know that she was Jewish, so she changed it to Esther. You would not have could tell from the name Esther that she was Jewish. I know plenty of people with the name Esther, and you would not can't tell what they are, where they're from, or anything. Esther is obviously quite a nice name to go by. So the original audience for the Book of Esther was the Jewish people, those that were living within Persian Empire and were living in exile. So now we're going to the other side. So this side is mainly talking about the key themes and the overview of the book. So the overview of the book. So the Book of Esther tells how a Jewish girl became the queen of Persia and saved her people from the plot to destroy them. Esther is assisted in this by Mordecai, her cousin and guardian. And then the key themes is divine providence. God is not mentioned by name in the Book of Esther. Human responsibility. Esther and Mordecai shows great initiative and courage. So obviously they're going to show a lot of encouragement and initiative to be able to save their people from being destroyed, because obviously they don't want that. And obviously Esther is going to have help from her cousin, her guardian. So her guardian is basically there to protect her, to make sure that she's okay. She, so obviously she's a younger person, so she needed that older person to be a guardian to her, to keep her safe and all that. So that's generally the overview of the Book of Esther and the overview of the book and the key themes. So now we can quickly go over chapter 1. So obviously Esther's not mentioned in chapter 1. So it's just talking about King, what's his name? So it's talking about the King Ahasuerus, and then obviously he reigned from India to Ethiopia, over 127 provinces, and he sat on a royal throne in Susia, the Kaitao, and he was obviously married to Queen Vashti, I think it's pronounced. But Queen Vashti was not obviously doing what she was told. She was expected to do something and she refused and declined. And because of her refusal and her declining it, she then obviously got banished, basically. Had a divorce, if you want to put it that way. She just, the king was not happy with her. He did not take well to being disobeyed by his wife, by the queen, especially in front of people as well. She obviously felt like she didn't want to do it, she shouldn't have to do it, but from his perspective of things, that I'm the king, I'm the man in this relationship. And it was like this back in that time period, where the men ruled the house, ruled how things were done. And towards the end of chapter 1, he obviously gave out a proclamation to all the households of all the people in his province, and it was all written in their own language so they would all understand it. And that is basically that the men are in charge of the household, and basically the women were to listen to what they've been told to do and go by what they were told to do. So that's basically the overview of Esther. Obviously, as I said, Esther wasn't mentioned in chapter 1. It was just talking about how King Ahasuerus, who he was, where he reigned over, and talked about his wife, the Queen Vashti, and how she did not obey to what she was told. And by disobeying her husband and her king, because don't forget, kings are higher than queens, technically speaking. So you can have a queen, but you can't have a, so a king can have a wife that's queen consort, unless they are both in reign with each other. So if they're in reign with each other, they'd be king and queen. So if they are ruling at the same time, ruling together as what, as one, they'd be king and queen, and the queen will be queen in her own right. If a king is reigning, so let's go with the United Kingdom at present. So you have King Charles III and his wife, Queen Camilla. Now, I'm not having any hate on this video because I'm just using them because I live in a country that has a king and a queen in what I'm talking about. So no hate on anybody here. So King Charles III and his wife, Queen Camilla. She is queen consort. This is where I'm going to get to. So she's not technically queen as in, like, say, with King Charles's mum, Queen Elizabeth II. She was queen. She came onto the throne as queen. That was her, she was the heir apparent after her father. So her father was king. She was the heir apparent because she was the oldest child. It was herself and her sister. She was the oldest child. So the throne went, or the crown went to Queen Elizabeth. So she was queen in her own right, but her husband, Prince Philip, wasn't King Philip because it would then meant that Philip would have been king of England, king of the United Kingdom in his own right. But because he was married to a queen, he had to be below her in that essence. So he became Prince Philip. I know, complicated, but I'm trying to explain it. But because king is higher than queen, when the throne went, or the crown went to King Charles III, his wife automatically would become queen consort. But nobody's going to go and call her Queen Consort Camilla, because that's, one, is a mouthful, and two, who actually does that? I don't. She's just Queen Camilla. That is fine by me. So you have King Charles III and Queen Camilla. She's a consort. I mean, Prince Philip was actually a consort. He, he was a prince in his own right because of other stuff, and he lost all his titles and all that stuff. But Queen Elizabeth made him Prince Philip, because of being her husband. I mean, even if you go further back to Queen Victoria, her husband wasn't King Albert, it was Prince Albert. Case in point, the Queen is below. If the Queen is the one in charge of the country, reigning as a reigning monarch, her husband's automatically going to become Prince, not King. There is a couple way back, a few generations ago, and they were king and queen at the same time because they were reigning at the same time. You can have that. You can have, as I said, a king and queen reigning together because they were given the throne together. Not often it happens, but it does happen. It'd be when Prince William becomes King William, his wife, Catherine Middleton, Princess of Wales, when Prince William becomes King William, she'll become Queen Catherine, Queen Consort. But nobody will call her Queen Consort Catherine because that don't make any sense, does it? She'll be Queen Catherine. Right, so we've established how the monarchy works out here. That's just my understanding of it, in all fairness. But with this in particular, King Ahasuerus, I think that's how you pronounce his name, was higher than Queen Vashti. So she was his wife, she was a queen because obviously she married her husband, but she wasn't queen as in a reigning queen. You can have a reigning queen and you can have a non-reigning queen, which is the consort. She was a non-reigning queen. She's a consort, so she was below her husband in that essence. And because of that, she wasn't a reigning queen. If he was expecting her to do something and she wasn't doing it, he's gonna be like, you can go away. I don't want you in my, you're not doing as you're told. Goodbye. I'll just find a new wife. I found a new queen. That's basically how that is understanding in this book, in this chapter, is that King Ahasuerus was not happy that his queen was disobeying his orders, was not going by what she needed to have done. He had it in his mind what was expected of her, and she wasn't doing what was expected, and that was why it was kind of like go away, I don't want you in my life, goodbye. And then he gave out that proclaimment to all the households within his kingdom to basically say that the men in the household, you have to obey what they say. They are the one in charge, basically. That's basically how it is. So I'm going to write in the day and the date. So it's day 1, and it's the 6th of May 25. So as I said at the start of the video, this is going to be a very long video. I'm aware of that, because obviously at the start of all new books in the Bible, I do like to explain things about the book, how it is, like the original audience, when it was written, who that person is, or who the main running theme in the book is. Obviously we wanted to talk about who Esther is, and all that. I just wanted to get all that out there at the start. It's always best to get it started on a longer video, and then the videos then become a little bit shorter as the time goes by, when I'm explaining how things are in the Bible and what certain things mean and all that. I mean, there are going to be resources that I will use throughout about any Bible study we'll do. The main one will be this. It's Young's Bible Dictionary, and it's the updated and expanded version of it. If at any point we come across something that looks a bit unusual, might be thinking that's a word we don't normally use, I will be using the Bible Dictionary as well. Just so you are aware, as I said, this video is going to go on for quite some time, and I will apologise for it. But yeah, I just wanted to get everything out there at the start of the video, and then when we go through the book, the videos will be much more shorter, because we're not going to be doing so much at the start of the video and having to read the introduction and then talking about things like that. Obviously I will always go back to the sides in reference if need be, but that's only if need be. But yeah, so if you are new, I hope this video explains how it is. But yeah, so all my videos that I do will be put into playlists, and the playlists will obviously be on my channel. You can find them. So if you want to look up about the book of Psalms, if you're in the middle of book of Psalms reading, book of Proverbs, if you want to do that. We've just done book of Ruth, now we're going to be doing book of Esther. So there is a lot of content there for you all to see and for you all to understand. I do these videos because I want to give you a channel that is for beginners, a beginner guide to the Bible, in a way that's easy to understand. Now, if at any point I don't explain something quite how I haven't explained it in a way that you can understand it, please just comment in the box below and just let me know, and I will obviously include that comment in the next video when I do it, or when it's relevant to something. I will always obviously answer to the comments, and if I feel that it's relevant to everybody, then I will include it into a video to explain it and stuff like that. So the day numbers means each chapter. So obviously day 1 means it's like chapter 1. So tomorrow's me day 2, chapter 2. So that's basically what that means. It's nothing fancy, we're not doing the Bible in chronological order or in a year. If it was done in a year, then yeah, the days would be as that, the 365-day business. But as we're not doing it that way, it's a bit different. I'm not saying we won't be doing the Bible in a year. I just don't feel that we're quite there yet to do so. It'll be quite some time before we get back to that point. But yeah, so that's basically the general overview of the channel and the videos. There's plenty of videos to explain it, but I just want to explain it just again for those who are new. It's always nice to have things explained at random times. So I will do a video at some point explaining a bit about me, a bit about my Bible journey, things like that. So you've got also another video to look at that will come along at some point. When that will be, I don't know. So thank you for watching. Please like my content. I'd really appreciate if you could do that. Please turn on the notification bell so you then get notified of content like this that gets uploaded to the channel. Thank you and goodbye.